What is up, guys? This is Kyurem from the Trinity of Lift, and I'm finally back from my vacation hiatus. And I'm finally back in front of the camera today to do a deck profile with you guys of my Madolche Shaddoll deck for this absolutely brand spanking new July 2015 format. So, much like the April format, the very first deck profile of this format that I'm going to do for all of you guys is this variant of Madolche. And ever since the last time you guys seen the list, I've been tweaking it off and on, just in my spare time for the fun of it. And after playing around with this deck for quite some time now, over the past couple of months, I really have found that making this just basically a Madolche deck with a Shaddoll engine is actually much more effective than trying to blend both archetypes together, as you can end up getting more cloggy or mismatching hands by doing that. So with this new version of this Madolche Shaddoll deck, I just decided to try and focus more on the Madolche side of things and just have Shaddolls in there as a sort of toolbox to use. So let's get right into this brand new profile. Alrighty, so starting us off, we're going to start with the Madolche monsters, and it's pretty much the same standard lineup for any Madolche deck, really. So we're really going to start off with the 3 Angeli, because Angeli is the best Madolche by far. You got to run 3 of her, because we want to see her in almost every play that we are going to make in this deck. So of course we have to run her at 3. Following that, we have our 3 copies of Madolche Madeline, because she is our Stratos of the deck, being able to search any of our Madolches out, which basically is our Angeli majority of the time. So again, just having 3 extra copies of Angeli or any other combo piece Madolche card that we might need is always really helpful. Then we have 3 copies of Madolche Hoot Cake, because we need the same ratio of Hoot Cake to Angeli, just so we can ensure that we'll never end up dead drawing our Angelis in late game or whatnot. Following that, we have the 2 copies of Madolche Mufway, because Mufway is our Soteller Vega for the archetype, and just having this paired with Angeli can usually get you into your standard Madolche combo. So we have the 2 Mufway. And then finally, we have the 2 copies of Madolche Messenger Lotto to just do our general Madolche spell and trap searching. Well, honestly, it's just Madolche spells, as I do not run the Madolche trap within this deck. So we do run the 2 Messenger Lotto to round off our Madolche monsters. Moving on to the Shaddolls, we do run one of every relevant one, which is the 1 Beast, 1 Dragon, 1 Hedgehog, 1 Falco, and then finally the 1 Squamata. Again, like I said in the introduction of this video, this part of the deck is really just a toolbox part of the deck. It isn't really one of your big plays or one of the plays that you want to do, as the Shaddolls themselves will provide you a little bit more utility than any normal Madolche deck, as you can use, say, Falco to get your Shaddolls back. You can use Squamatas for just general destruction. Your Hedgehog can search you either the Shaddolls or the spells. Dragon is just general removal again. And Beast can help you dig through your deck a little bit quicker. Again, really, we don't focus on this side of the deck. It's just more of a toolbox, which is, again, why we do run one of every relevant one. Moving on to the non-Madolche / Shaddoll cards that are just general monster support. We start off with the 1 copy of Chronomaly Crystal Bones. Very much like the last list, we have the 1 copy of Crystal Bones to 1 act as a combo piece with Angeli, and 2 to act as the light fodder for our Shaddoll fusion plays and whatnot. So that is why we do run the 1 Crystal Bones. Then, following that, we actually have 4 different hand traps in the form of 2 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit, and then 2 copies of Effect Veiler. Now, Ghost Ogre is in here because this deck innately has a very, very bad Clayfort matchup, so having ways to just, again, have a better Clayfort matchup can really just help you in a variety of situations, as well as you'll see soon in the list, we actually do an Emergency Teleport, so Ghost Ogre does act as a target for that card in order to act as a combo piece in and of itself. Then, of course, we have the Veiler just to act as just general effect negation, as Effect Veiler is still very, very good in this format. So, of course, we still gotta run at least 2 in my opinion. Finally, we have 1 more monster, and that is 1 copy of Esper Girl. Now, we have Esper Girl in here to give our emergency teleport plays a little bit more potency, as well as we can still use the Esper Girl if we do end up drawing it as Earth Fodder for our fusion plays again. So, really, it might be a dead draw occasionally, but majority of the time it won't be too bad, as usually when you see your emergency teleports, you will be summoning Esper Girl off of that emergency teleport almost immediately. So with her, she will be rounding off our monster lineup. Moving on to the spells, we'll start off with the Madolche spells. We have the one copy of Chateau and the one copy of Ticket. Again, I feel that multiples of either of these cards is really not necessary anymore, just because you really want to see the cards that you want to see, rather than these cards, as you'd rather go into your combo plays again, rather than seeing these spell cards. These cards are usually going to be searched off of Messengerado, and Messengerado will obviously just get you them whenever you need them, whenever you decide to combo into Messengerado. So again, that is why we just do run the one copy of each, so we don't see them too often. Moving on to the Shaddoll spells, we have the 2 copy of El Shaddoll Fusion and the 1 copy of Shaddoll Fusion. Now, again, because I said before that the Shaddoll part of this deck is just more of a toolbox, we don't really need to go above 3 copies of any Shaddoll Fusion in this deck, because of the fact that really the Shaddoll Fusions in this deck just provide you with extra monsters to use for your offensive pushes and whatnot. So, again, outside of that, you primarily would be trying to go into your Madolche cards. So, again, the Shaddoll Fusions are not taking precedence, it's just there, just whenever you do end up drawing them or searching them to just have another way to summon another big monster. Following that, we have 4 combo piece spell cards to pair with our Angelis or any just general monsters. We have the 2 copies of Emergency Teleport and the 2 copies of Instant Fusion. These will help you get into either your Synchro or your XYZ plays. So just having 2 copies of each of these cards will actually either help us get into our Angeli plays or just use slower monsters on our field. Like if we ever do draw into one of the Shaddolls or something like that, we can at least have these cards to go along with those cards to just make some sort of play at the very least. Next up, we have 3 copies of Upstart Goblin, because I feel like we want to have this deck as consistent as possible. So having the 37 card main deck is always, again, probably the most consistent deck around. Next up, we have 3 more spell cards to round off the spell lineup, and that's just very powerful one-ofs. We have the 1 Raigeki, the 1 Book of Moon, and the 1 Foolish Burial. Foolish is here, again, to just get you that toolbox for the Shaddoll engine. We have the Book of Moon just to be just a good card, and Raigeki just in the same light to be a good card. So these cards will round off our spell lineup. Moving on, we actually do only play 1 singular trap card, and that is 1 copy of Vanity's Emptiness. I really have been testing around with traps in this deck before, and I really could never find myself to use the traps effectively, if you know what I mean. I kept finding myself drawing into them either really, really early or really, really late, when either they would be not helpful to some plays that I could do, or they would be fairly slow and not helpful enough in the late game to do much at all. So I decided to just play 1 just general good trap card, which is the 1 copy of Emptiness, just to help us floodgate our opponents so that they cannot just go off and whatnot. So with that 1 Emptiness, we will be rounding off our 40 card main deck as per usual. Now then, going into the extra deck, we'll start with the fusions. We have actually quite a bit of them besides the Shaddolls, actually. So we'll start off with the Shaddolls first, though. We have 1 copy of Nephilim, 1 copy of Shekinaga, and 1 copy of Winda. Again, because, like I've said, I don't know, must have been a bajillion times by now, the Shaddolls are not the important part of this deck. They just act as another way to get big monsters on your field. So, outside of maybe 2 copies of Shekinaga, you really only can get away with just 1 copy of each of the primary ones that you can make in this deck, as, again, they're just bonus monsters whenever you can summon them. Although I will say that possibly you could get away with trying to put 2 Shekinaga into this deck, but the fact is that when I constructed this extra deck, I just could not find the room for a second Shekinaga with just the other cards that I felt that I had to run in it. So for now, this is the Shaddoll lineup that I am running in this extra deck, and I really am not complaining. They're doing pretty darn spectacular still. Following that, we have our instant fusion targets, and we have 3 of them as well. We have the 1 copy of Fusionist, the 1 copy of Carbonella Warrior, and the 1 copy of Panzer Dragon. Now, Carbonella Warrior and Fusionist are fairly standard instant fusion targets, as they get you into your rank 3 or your rank 4 plays pretty easily. But we also have the Panzer Dragon in here to act as a light fodder for our fusion plays, as it essentially turns our instant fusions into a free light monster, as well as in worst case scenario, we can actually use the instant fusion to use Panzer Dragon as simple removal for things like, I don't know, like a big boss monster or something that we just have to get over. So that is also why we do run the 1 Panzer Dragon. So that will round off our fusion lineup. Moving on to the synchros, we have three just good synchros for the ones that we can actually make. We have one copy of Naturia Beast, one copy of Armades, and then one copy of Goyo Guardian. Naturia Beast is pretty self-explanatory for this format, as a lot of the good decks nowadays are fairly spell reliant. So having a way to just make Nat Beast within this deck can just really swing the Clyford matchup and the Necros matchup right into your favor. So that is why we do run the one Naturia Beast. We also have the one Armades for just general poking through back row, poking through Necros of Valkyries, and just poking in general because of his good effect. And then we have the one Goyo Guardian, as in my opinion, Goyo is probably the only relevant level 6 synchro that we do have access to right now. So just because this deck can make level 6s pretty easily, we do have the one Goyo to act as that level 6. Finally, we're going to get right into the XYZs, starting off with the Madolche ones, starting off with the two copies of Madolche Queen Tiaramisu, because she is your boss monster of this specific deck. Of course, Tiaramisu is just absolutely outstanding. She is a crazy card. She has a crazy effect. And again, because this is a Madolche deck, you gotta run two of her because, again, she is your primary boss monster, and she's just too good not to run. Following that, we have our two copies of Levier and our one copy of MX Saber Invoker, just to act as our combo piece XYZs to help us get into our standard Madolche combos and whatnot. And then finally, for the final XYZ we do run one solitary rank 4, and that's one copy of Castell the Skyblaster Musketeer. Now, we do run the one Castell just because it's just easy removal within our rank 4s, and we aren't limited to only making rank 4s utilizing only Madolche monsters, as Tiaramisu can only be made with Madolches. So it's good to just have one generic rank 4 whenever we do have to use maybe like a Shaddoll for an XYZ, or we just have really just mismatching cards, or we have an instant fusion to make one. So that is why we do have the one Castell. Alrighty guys, so that is it for my Madolche Shaddoll deck for this brand new July 2015 format. I hope you all did enjoy the deck, and please let me know what you guys think of this deck down in the comment section below as per usual. And as always, this is Kyurem from the Trinity of Lift, and I'll see all of you guys later. Peace out.